Something that I've said about Tortured Poets from the beginning that I've gotten some flack for is
Mm.
she needed an editor.
Welcome back to B-Side Banner. This is episode 27. I'm here with Alex. You probably know him from Vinyl by Mars, and I believe that's both Instagram and TikTok. And
Yep.
you also have all kinds of other awesome stuff you're doing. Just launched a Substack. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you have a real awesome focus on pop music, just all kinds of things from album reviews, from social commentary, from et cetera, whatever you have. You literally have interviews with some really, really cool people picking up vinyl records. I was just watching some of those today. So all
Thank
kinds of
you.
fun things. I'm going to kick it over to you, Alex, and you can maybe talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So nice to meet everybody. I'm Alex. I've been creating content on TikTok, Instagram, wherever for a little over 4 years now. And I started off as a record collector. As you can see behind me, if you're watching the video version of this, there's probably 200 records across the floor and in this bookcase. And
Amazing.
I originally just started collecting records because I was moving into this apartment, living on my own for the first time in a studio, wanted to decorate with records to reflect my music taste, and decided to post about it on the internet. And here we are 4 years later. And it's been a wild journey. Yeah, I specialize in pop music. I have loved pop music my entire life. I love watching the charts and studying streaming numbers and analyzing what, album rollouts look like in campaigns and everything. And yeah, now I create a bunch of content surrounding pop music, social commentary, like you mentioned, album reviews, reactions, interviewing artists is something that I'm starting to pick up more on. And I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, it's awesome. And there's never a dull moment because there's always news, there's always something to talk about, there's always something big going on. One of the biggest things right now is Taylor Swift's new album, right? Like that's a huge thing. Whenever Taylor does anything, the whole world stops, right? Like everybody's paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
So give us your 2 cents on that whole thing. You know, her initial. I have a Swiftie in the house. I am a Swiftie, maybe a Swiftie light. My wife is a Swiftie, like intense Swiftie.
So you're in the midst of it.
I am in the midst of it. Yeah, I do appreciate Taylor Swift. I have my opinions on her and on some of the stuff that she's done recently that a lot of Swifties don't like. But I
probably
think she's
agree with you.
I do think she's one of the greatest songwriters of our generation. And anyway, give us your 2 cents on this new album drop.
Yeah, well, I think to understand the significance of the new album, you have to, unfortunately, this is like the case with everything in Taylor world lately, is you have to know the background to it all.
Yes.
So, I mean, basic background is long story short, she put out her first 6 albums, moved over to a new label, was not able to purchase the masters behind those first 6 albums, and they were bought by Scooter Braun. It became this very, very publicized battle between the two of them. Was later sold to another investment fund, and she consistently mentioned how badly she wanted to own her life's work, which I agree with. I think it's incredibly important. If you are an artist and you want to own your work, you should be able to. And she set out to then do the Taylor's versions, which were the re-recorded versions of her 4 of the first 6 albums. So those were Fearless, Red, Speak Now, and 1989. And the original goal was to do all 6 as a way of owning her masters and then giving fans extra vault songs, but she ultimately was able to buy them back earlier this year, which is incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
The reason why she was able to buy them back was because of the significance and the impact of the Eras Tour, becoming the biggest global tour of all time, multi-billion-dollar gross, 150 something shows. Like there was enough traffic for the Ticketmaster on sale for her to have sold out over 900 shows, playing every single day in a row for 3 years. That's how much demand there was. It's insane.
Yeah.
It is like unfathomable the amount of demand there was. And because of how successful both culturally and financially the Eras Tour was, she was able to buy back her masters. And this new album, The Life of Showgirl, it's her 12th album. It's coming out October 3rd. And this album is going to show what it was like behind the scenes of the Eras Tour, to show what it was like being the most famous pop star on the planet, the most famous celebrity on the planet at the second peak of her career, which most people don't have another peak.
Yeah.
to reveal what it was like behind the scenes and how
Mhm.
she was handling that pressure, how she found love with Travis Kelce, presumably. And this new album is going to be a return to like the pure, pristine pop of a 1989. So think like your blank space, your style.
Mm. Mhm.
And she worked exclusively with Max Martin and
Yeah.
Shellback. Max Martin, like the most prolific songwriter of our time. I think he
Mhm.
has like over maybe 25 or 27 number one hits on the Billboard Hot 100. I
It's
forget the
so
number. It's
crazy.
it's
It's insane.
crazy. And
Yeah.
these three haven't worked together since Reputation. So that was
Mhm.
8 years ago now.
Yeah.
And, I think it says a lot that she left behind her work with Jack Antonoff and Aaron Dessner of The National that
Mm.
you saw on Folklore, Evermore, Midnight, Tortured Poets. And this is a very sharp move to reclaim that number one title of having a smash hit single and a really,
Mm.
really killer album that's just danceable and fun and
Yeah.
uplifting and energizing. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of noise that comes from this.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think, like, from your perspective and in your opinion, do you feel like you like that transition that she's making, from kind of moving away from Jack Antonoff and Dessner, going back to Max Martin? Do you wish that she, I guess, a twofold question, do you maybe wish that she went somewhere else, like somewhere new, or are you excited for this?
I am excited for this.
Yeah.
I, hmm, that's a really good question. I'm happy that Jack and Aaron are not on this project. I
Mhm.
think something that I respect about Taylor is her ability to respond gracefully, not gracefully, sometimes gracefully. Her
Yeah.
ability to respond to criticism in a
Mhm.
productive way. The word
Yeah.
productive is what I meant.
Yeah.
When, you know, when Reputation came out and it was super jarring and it ultimately didn't land any big Grammy nominations, she immediately said, and this footage is in her documentary, she's like, I just need to make a better album.
Mhm.
And Lover came out and still, in my opinion, wasn't a better album. But because Lover didn't match the success of a Reputation in 1989, and then the pandemic hit, she did a hard reset and
Mm. Yeah.
put out Folklore, which is, in my opinion, her best album,
Mhm.
and was able to tap into new sides of her artistry, different kind of
Yeah.
storytelling, work with Aaron Dessner, and it really worked. But then you got Evermore, and you got Midnight, and you got Tortured Poets, and you got the re-records working still with this same group.
Mm.
That Tortured Poets kind of felt like overload, that it
Mm.
was so much of very, very similar sounding music that it felt like her evolving artistry was kind of slowing down, was paused. And while there was a ton of attention on the lyricism on the album, production wise and also just quality wise, in my opinion, it
Mm.
diminished from or where we were to where we are now. So I think it says a lot that she heard that criticism and is now deciding to move in a different direction with Max Martin
Mm.
and Shellback. And in
Yeah.
terms of working with a completely different set of producers, that is something I'm really interested in because I think she does her best work when she's coming from a place where she feels like she has to prove something.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
got that
Yeah.
on Speak Now, where
Yeah.
before that, everyone was criticizing, like, she's not writing these all herself. She can't possibly
Mhm.
be, and then wrote the entire album by herself.
Yes. Yeah.
Then on um from Red to 1989, making like a
Yep.
really sharp pivot towards an official pop album, she felt the need
Mhm.
that she needed to prove herself in that way. And then with
Yeah.
Folklore again. So you see these creative spikes happening when there's something to prove and something to overcome. And I don't
Mm.
think she has anything necessarily to overcome or prove on this album, but I think it's interesting that she's working with Max and Shellback because it says to me where her priorities are, that she wants to have like a truly organic smash hit is something
Mm.
that she hasn't had, like a global unstoppable number one song that is the song of the year essentially. She hasn't really
Mm.
had that since 1989. You got
Yeah.
glimpses of it with Cruel
Yeah.
Summer going super viral, but that wasn't
Yeah.
timed with Lover.
Yeah.
And with
Totally. Yeah.
Tortured Poets, it was kind of hit or miss. So I think
Mm.
it's time for that. And Max and Shellback are the people you would probably want to go to for that.
Yeah. Totally. And I think one of my biggest things with Tortured Poets is, like, I felt like she was um almost getting like too, like, I don't want to say too raw or too introspective, but like I think like the Jack Antonoff Aaron Dessner thing really made her introspective and kind of more raw, and that translated really really well in Folklore Evermore. I feel like it went too far with Tortured Poets, where like to me it translated into really corny lyricism that she's not like sometimes she has that, but like to me there was like it was like overload of that on Tortured Poets Department, and I felt like that was a result of maybe like these two producers pushing that out of her too much, if that makes sense. And it worked really well at the beginning, but as they continue to work together, it almost felt, yeah, to me, like there were some lines on there that I was like, this is not like this does not feel like Taylor Swift. Like
Hmm.
her one lines are usually like you're talking about them because they're really clever and
Right.
really like just you're trying to figure out the meaning behind them, not like whoa this was so cringe. Like she's had glimpses of that, like I still cringe at Sexy Baby on Midnights, but like
Yeah.
uh there I just felt like Tortured Poets Department was just so there was so much of that. There were so many of those things. And to me, I was like, I feel like this is like maybe it's just gone too far. This
Hmm.
rawness, this like, and instead of it being like, oh, she's being so vulnerable and cool and raw, I was like, oh, this is like this feels really corny and weird.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
understand what you're saying. And I think something that I've said about Tortured Poets from the beginning that I've gotten some flack for is
Mm,
she needed an editor. She
yeah,
needed an
sure.
editor.
Yeah.
And I think after working with the same group of producers and
Mm,
co-writers for so many years who were true friends outside of the studio,
yeah.
there I don't know if the relationship working style was like for them to naturally push back. It doesn't seem like there was any pushback because to
Mm,
your point, some of these lines just go on a little too long or they're clunky. And she even said on the New Heights podcast, she was talking about how the goal of Tortured Poets was lyrics, lyrics, lyrics. And just
mm,
it felt like sometimes things were just being written or using a word or a phrase that she had written down for years and just wanted to use it, whether or
yeah,
not it
sure.
actually fit the story or it worked. And
Yeah.
there's one line on the album that perfectly, in my eyes, depicts the problem that I have
Mm,
is like you said, she is known for like these really clever, witty, so strong, like one liners that just deliver such a sucker punch.
yeah.
Um, and the line on the title track, The Tortured Poets Department, where she says, "You took the ring off my middle finger and put it on the one that people put wedding rings on, and that's the closest I've come to my heart exploding." If this were read, Taylor, the one part that I can't stand about that is that she says, "And put it on the one that people put wedding rings on." If she
Mm,
had just ended that line at "and put it on the one,"
yeah.
we all can figure out what the one is, you know?
Yeah, true.
It
Yeah.
felt over explained when it didn't
Yeah.
necessarily need to be, and that's part of the magic of her songwriting is that you know exactly what
Mhm.
she's trying to get at without necessarily her needing to make it,
Yeah.
elementary school level of understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's an
Totally.
example of it. I definitely think that there are some lyrical moments on this album that are really strong. I think a song like So Long London is great, but Daddy I Love Him is great.
Mm.
Um, I'm trying to think. I haven't listened in a bit, but yeah, there are definitely moments that I don't return to, but there are some that are definitely up there. It's kind of like an
Mm.
album alongside Lover in my eyes, where the highs are so high, but the lows are just like, I don't need them, you know?
Mm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. Um, it's I'm excited. Like as somebody that has not been feeling her last two albums as much. I didn't hate Midnights, but I didn't love it.
Hmm.
And I
It didn't
think
age so great.
yeah, yeah. And so as somebody that was kind of like definitely not as huge on those last two albums, I'm excited for this. Um I do kind of like the branding. It just feels it's colorful, and her
Yeah.
last two were not, right?
No.
So well, actually last four were not at all.
Last
Like if
four
you
have not
yeah.
been.
So this kind of feels and but it's not colorful like Lover. It's like orange is like that's an extremely bold color. And so
Mhm.
everybody knows Taylor does not do anything like unintentionally. This is
Yeah.
intentional, her branding's intentional, everything is intentional. Um so orange is like super bold. Like that's like yeah,
Yeah.
to me it is like that color is like going back to 1989. Um, kind of a hot take that I have about Taylor is I actually really love Reputation. There's some stinkers on there, but
I don't think that should be a hot take.
I know, but people think
It's a
that that's
great
her one
album.
of her. I think it's amazing. I loved that she like went dark and like got like
Yeah.
really vengeful. Like that to me I was like I want more of this. I want more like dark, vengeful Taylor. Like obviously now she can't really do that because she's not in that state of mind.
Except she
Um
has. And that's actually a
yes.
really good point is I think bad Taylor is very more often than not believable, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reputation was believable. It was
Mhm.
campy. It was
Yeah.
fiery. It was angsty. She really, going back to what I said before about having something to prove, she really had something to prove because she was
Yeah.
essentially
Yeah.
canceled outright.
Yeah.
And to come back as this like badass, she curses for the first time on this album, which was a
Yeah.
big deal back then,
Yeah.
even though it's all
Yeah.
over the place now.
Yeah.
And when you have a moment like I did something bad,
Mm.
or even if it's not like storytelling and lyrics based on the bad girl side of things, that
Mhm.
darker style of production is what I was
Yeah.
really intrigued by on a song like Don't Blame Me,
Yeah.
or even
Absolutely.
Delicate being like a
Yeah.
softer moment on the album.
Yeah.
I mean, there
Yeah.
are definitely some clunkers on it, but like
Yeah.
the majority of the album, I feel like stands as this thesis statement on what it is to be outright canceled as one of the most famous people in the world,
Yeah.
and how you're
Yeah.
going to come back and respond to it. When it
Yeah.
doesn't
Well,
work for me is on
yeah.
Tortured Poets, on the
Yeah.
song Thank You Amy, for
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
where all these years later
Yeah.
mentioning the Kim Kanye feud, and I'm just like, this is not necessary. Like, I don't
Yeah.
need that, you know?
Yeah, it felt like a little fan servicey maybe, like this like and maybe that's another gripe that I have with Tortured Poets is that
The
maybe she
entire
went
album, like everything
yeah.
was.
Yeah, exactly. But and too much. Like she always gives fan service. She always gives Easter eggs. She always does that stuff in all of her albums, but this was like overload. Like, yeah. One thing that I'm curious if she is feeling, and I have this like kind of on our outline, but I think that's a good transition. But the rise of the pop star girlies is like insane right now. Like that's all that there is in pop, in my
Hmm.
opinion. Like there's not really a lot of anything else. It's just these amazing new pop stars that are coming out of the woodwork that are doing huge things.
Yeah.
I'm curious if Taylor is like, I don't know if she would be threatened, but I'm curious if she has in the back of her mind, like, are these people outdoing me? Am I going to be kind of forgotten by the new audience? Because she's had a stranglehold on young people for so
Hmm.
long.
Yeah.
But Charli XCX, Olivia Rodrigo, Chapel Roan, Sabrina Carpenter, like
Yep.
all of them, Tate McRae, even though I don't really love Tate McRae, but all of these now new rising pop girls are kind of taking over this kind of Gen Z younger
Hmm.
audience.
Right.
And it's crazy. Brat Summer was huge. It was
Huge.
massive.
Yeah. It was incredible. And I think
Mhm,
the one thing that those who really had standout years last year, mostly being Sabrina, Chapel, Charlie,
mhm.
what they all have in common is just pure, raw authenticity. There was
Yeah.
no
Mhm,
bullshit. There was
mhm.
no facade. It was very clear who they are, not only as performers, but as people too.
Yeah.
Charlie, what you got from Brat screams like, this is who I actually am as
Yeah.
Charlotte, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Chapel being this very campy, dramatic persona, but also feels very true. And she speaks her mind, as we've seen many times, sometimes to her
Mhm.
detriment.
Yes.
Sabrina weaving in these like really hysterical moments into her music and
Mhm.
bringing her really dry sense of humor into the music itself and being playful and seductive and Lolita esque,
Mhm.
but like a 50s housewife, 60s glam aesthetic too. That
Mhm.
really worked for them. I think Taylor also has that same thing where at the end of the day, everyone feels like Taylor Swift is their best friend if you are a diehard Swiftie, because you
Mhm.
know the
Mhm.
ins and outs of her life, you know her
Yeah.
story, you know her relationships, you know the breakups, you know she lets people in that way. And that's part of
Mhm.
why she's been as successful as she has been for almost 20 years now. But
Mhm.
I think to your point, if there's an ounce of feeling threatened or can I maintain this, I think there's two sides to it. On one hand, what we've seen over the last few years with Taylor, where we're at with her right now, where we'll probably continue to go at least for another few years, is completely unprecedented. Like, this is levels of Beatles,
Yeah.
Michael Jackson that will
Yeah.
very, very rarely ever have someone get that high in
Mm.
terms of just you global monoculture
Yeah.
celebrity.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I think what you saw with the last 4 albums playing into that Jack and Aaron aesthetic, like we were just talking about, being very consistent,
Mm.
it again to me signifies a ton that she's changing things up big time with this new album, is a way of reminding people like, hey, I'm not only this deeply introspective songwriter who's playing into these very like moody aesthetics, I can also deliver a smash hit and an album you want to dance to when you go out, because she hasn't really
Yeah.
had that in a long time, like I said.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think this is her responding to the rise of the pop girlies. I
Mm.
think also it is a way of kind of, I mean, we haven't heard any of the album yet, so I'm just
Yeah.
saying this based on aesthetic, based on what I've heard. It
Mm.
feels kind of like you were saying before, like, should she have gone for a completely different set of producers? She's
Yeah.
still playing it safer than she maybe could have.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, are people going to listen to Taylor Swift to get the same thing that they get by listening to Charli XCX? I
Mm.
don't think so. So at the same time, like, it's a move, but it's a calculated, safe move in a positive way.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That definitely makes sense. And I just was kind of thinking like 4 years ago, like Taylor didn't have anybody really that was threatening her. Like
No.
maybe Beyonce, um, like Ariana Grande was really big, but I don't think that there was any thought in Taylor's mind like any of these people have like as much of a stranglehold on their audience as I do. But now I think, like I was saying, like these artists, not I don't think any individual one has the same grip that Taylor does, but
Hmm.
I think all together they're kind of pulling, yeah, like because the aesthetic of Chapel, of Sabrina, of Charlie, especially Charlie, is like so drastically different.
Right.
And anybody that wants that, and like Billie Eilish is always like in the background too, like she's kind of always there, but those aesthetics are more similar to each other than Taylor is to them, I think.
Hmm. Definitely.
So so it's like this pulling, like I feel like she can sense this pulling away of this fandom, and I'm sure she's not panicking. She's huge, she's massive, but I'm sure it creates in her mind a sense of I need to prove something. I need to prove I'm still relevant. I need to
Hmm.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the way in her mind that she's trying to do that is with this like global, unstoppable #1 smash hit single that is
Mm,
#1 all across the planet for multiple weeks.
yeah.
Because, I mean, if Alex Warren can do it with Ordinary, why can't Taylor Swift?
Yes. If
Like,
Morgan
give me a
Wallen
break.
can do it with songs that are a year old, like why can't Taylor Swift?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the missing piece, is that for so long, especially because of the Masters conversation,
Yeah.
so much of what Taylor does is surrounded by the air of the album. But
Mhm.
look at the singles outside of over the last, I want to say, since Reputation, Delicate, maybe, like, the
Yeah.
single choices have not done anything near where they used to, other
Yeah.
than Antihero. And Fortnite did, I think,
Yeah.
okay. It did better than
Yeah.
people expected.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of the other singles, like Karma did pretty well. But again, like, Karma is not an all-time great Taylor song. It doesn't
Mm-mm.
rival a
Yeah.
style in terms of its pop appeal. So I think that is where she's looking right now, is that's a way to stay in cultural conversation rather than staying #1 for weeks on end, because every week you release a different digital variant of your album and want to stay #1 for the record. Like, that felt
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
icky. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that she responds to that with a little bit
Yeah.
more clarity this time around.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's not even possible anymore. Didn't Billboard like change those rules that you can't that you have
Oh,
to
yeah.
release all your variants at once on release day? I'm pretty sure you can't release any new ones.
That sounds very familiar, but yet people are still doing like piecemeal variants. So
Are they? Yeah.
I
I'm
don't
sure
know.
they found a workaround, but I know it was like a combination of Taylor Swift and Travis Scott that
Yeah.
ruined that, where they just like released so many variants, like
I
so
mean,
many.
it's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
that's a very present conversation right now because of Taylor and Sabrina and just,
Mhm.
I mean, who just announced another album that like maybe it's Sabrina that like there's just so many variants already,
Mm,
and
yeah.
it's a really hot topic because on one hand, people are like, it's ridiculous, it's pure capitalism greed, it is not necessary. And then on the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, there's the argument of no one's forcing you to buy these things. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you were a diehard collector, that's your personal choice. Like I
Yeah.
personally do not variant collect unless it's Taylor or like an artist I'm a die hard fan for.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't even mean I'm going to buy every one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taylor is the only artist that I will like try to get as many and all of them as I can. But
Mm-hmm.
there isn't a unique value proposition there other than different pictures and a different colored disc. So an artist who I respected for doing it a little bit more, who still like went over the top in my opinion, was Olivia Rodrigo with Guts. The
Mm-hmm.
original 4 variants that she had put up, each one had a secret bonus track
Mm.
that you couldn't get on streaming and was not available anywhere else. Now it is, but
Yeah.
like at first it wasn't. And that's a
Yeah. Yeah.
cool way of like, if you want to hear these 4
Yeah.
secret songs, that's a
Mm-hmm.
way to do it. But
Yeah.
just to put out the exact same music 4 different times is a little much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. Very true. And I get that debate. Hey, if you don't want it, don't buy it. But yeah, it is. I think there's always been inflating sales. That's always a thing.
Hmm.
That's always been a thing to try to get to number one, to try to stay on number one. Um, I think just as people, when we see it so broad, like so blatantly in front of us, that's when we get upset. We're like, we're okay with you tricking us. Like, just trick us. You can buy like Spotify streams.
Yeah.
That's fine, but like, don't do it so blatantly right in front of us. Like,
Right. Right. Yeah. But also, like, does having a number one album mean as much as it used to?
I don't think so. I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
so.
I don't know because
Yeah.
the industry is just so different now. Like back when
Yeah.
it was more driven by like traditional CD sales or iTunes sales, it meant a lot more because people were actually physically buying the album either in a physical form or you were purchasing the entire album on iTunes or you bought
Mm,
X number of songs that contributed to the album sale, whatever it was classified as.
yeah.
Nowadays, with streaming, it just doesn't feel as concrete. Like I mean, that's part of why I collect records because I
Yeah.
need to like tangibly be able to know that if something happens and Spotify goes down or is somehow hacked and erased, like I have my music. There's
Mm,
something about like the physical act of it that I actually think is growing a lot within like Gen Z, Gen Alpha,
mm,
is a reaction to the over reliance on digitizing everything.
yeah. Yeah. Definitely. There's been a huge, huge resurgence in vinyl, CD. Um, yeah, it's crazy. It's getting to the point where like artists are even releasing stuff on cassette. Like it's
I
so
know.
wild. It's
It's
so
crazy to
wild.
me.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like the new way of supporting your artist. Instead of
Yeah.
buying endless t-shirts and clothing, you'll buy
Yeah.
the album. And
Yeah.
I mean, there is something nice about like having the physical thing here. This is Lord's
Yeah.
Virgin, and like you have the artwork, and you can have it in this big 12 by 12 print, and
Mm,
seeing like there used to be like an art to putting together the packaging. And I remember sitting in the car like when I would get a new CD and reading the album liner notes. And Taylor used to put little Easter eggs in the album notes and the
mm,
lyrics. And
mm-hmm.
there's something about like the packaging and the fonts that are used that just contribute to the overarching aesthetic of an album that you don't get from hitting play on streaming. It's a
Yeah.
completely different experience when you have a physical
Yeah. It's
thing
true.
to actually dive into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. Um, One thing we talked a lot about the pop girlies. The one of the only like kings of pop still that's like around just released an album out of the blue, Justin
Mm,
Bieber,
Justin
and
Bieber.
it's such an interesting thing because it's like he's riding the rise of this new great guitar player that's totally throwing the whole world of guitar sounds, guitar tone, and technique, all of that stuff upside down, McGee.
Yeah.
And it was like an interesting album. It wasn't. I feel like Justin Bieber is also kind of on like a weird slide of albums, like where it's kind of like I don't know if I really liked much of what he's put out lately. Um, but I would like to hear what you thought. I've already watched your videos, but I would like to hear what you thought of Swag and what you think of this whole rise of McGee, because Dijon just released, I don't know if you've listened to that album, but he just released his new album, and that's intensely influenced by McGee as well. And
Oh
Dijon
yeah,
also worked on Justin Bieber's Swag as well. So,
heavily. Yeah.
yeah.
Dijon's record is fantastic. I have not
Mm,
finished listening to it. I've gotten through a little more than half, and it's just such like an awakening. It just feels
mm,
like something that is going to be talked about for years to come. I don't know. There's something about it, and it could just be me completely off, but it feels like a kind of album that's going to be less mainstream than like a Blonde by Frank Ocean and less
yeah.
known, but will be
Mm,
held to that level of acclaim.
mm,
I have like a really weird feeling about it, but there's just something there that feels like we're on the precipice of really just pure greatness.
yeah.
With Swag, came out of nowhere, was announced the day before it dropped.
Mm,
It's a longer album. It, I
yeah.
think, is like close to 20 songs, if not 20 songs long. And it finds Bieber in a very different mode than he was in previously. The last album, Justice, was very maximalist pop, worked very
Mm,
closely with John Bellion, who I'm a huge fan of.
yeah.
A lot of the work felt kind of like him just singing John Bellion demos in my head. So I've had a harder time loving Justice. And it
Mm,
also didn't feel as um, in touch with the time. It felt maybe a little dated at the moment, other than like Peaches, for example. Peaches
mm,
is a great one on that one.
yeah.
This album is the R&B project that he'd always hinted at making, but no one ever thought he would actually have the support to do it. And he kind of did
Yeah.
a mini version of it on Journals that dropped in like 2013, 2014.
Mhm.
This album is a great version of that. I think that this album, I think I rated it like a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. I think I would go more with a 7 right now.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
choices he made, just the flexibility that he gave himself when creating this, the way that he's able to play with his voice and pitch it
Mm,
up and just use his voice as an instrument in a way that he hasn't done prior.
mm,
But
yeah.
something that I struggle with is how much can you separate the performer and the vocalist and like what they're contributing to behind the scenes from those that they're working with. So like
Mm,
McGee on
yeah.
Daisies and Dijon across the entire record,
Yeah.
when you then hear McGee's music or you then hear the new Dijon album, like, and you
Mm,
can very much tell what those influences were. How much can you attribute to Bieber versus the people he's working with?
mm,
So I think Swag is a good album. It kind of weirdly came and went. Like I didn't feel like
yeah.
people now really care so much about it, even though like Yukon and Daisies are doing pretty well numbers wise.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
posted when it first came out, and like the numbers for my videos just like were not there. And a lot of my friends who are creators too, like there just wasn't that much demand for it.
Mm,
So
mm,
I don't think it's necessarily going to be an album that has a huge impact culturally or commercially past this
yeah.
year. I could see it doing decently with Grammy nominations, but it's also going to be one that I feel like we return to years from now and say like, hey, that was a really like cool moment in time for Justin Bieber as an artist.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And it almost served, to me, it almost served more a purpose of Dijon's rollout than it did for
Mhm.
Justin Bieber album. Like it almost like put
Interesting.
more, like I feel like so many people were so hyped that Dijon was back doing music stuff, and like obviously this was a huge, like you said, it's hard to know what's the separation here between Justin Bieber and those that were producing and also writing on it. um yeah, it didn't feel like there really was much, and I think Justin was fine. I think he's probably always going to be fine with that, because like you said, this is kind of like maybe a passion project of his, and he just needed the right people to unlock it for him. But I do like, I feel like, to me, it seemed like the hype around the album was almost more toward like, when's Dijon gonna drop his new like
Mm,
record? Than it was like
yeah,
obviously there was a lot
partially
of
for
like
sure.
crazy. Yeah. It's
I
so
also think
it's
that that
weird.
dilemma is not something unique to Bieber. Like there
Yeah,
are
definitely
a
not.
number of different
Mm,
stories of artists who are both performers in their own and also work behind the scenes. I'm thinking, Julia Michaels, Sia, like when you like
mm,
2012, 2013, you heard Rihanna's Diamonds, like that's a Sia song. And
yeah,
it
yeah,
was. And then
yeah.
with the struggle that I had with Sabrina's Emails I Can't Send work, was that a lot of it was just straight Julia Michaels style of songwriting, that how much
Mm,
can you take out of it is actually Sabrina, which she then proved to me on Short and Sweet is
mm,
actually her.
yeah.
So it's not just a Bieber in his work with Dijon and McGee on this album thing. It's across the board.
Mm, yeah, it's very true, and like there's some artists that you won't really know how much is the artist, how much is the producer until they start working with somebody else. Like you think of like Dan and Olivia, you know, they've
Right.
they've both worked on those two albums, so it's like yeah, these and those it's tough. It's one of those things where you like you love those partnerships. You love the partnerships
Hmm.
where producer and artist are working so well together. But then if they ever split, which usually they do, um, then it's really tough. So that's where I think sometimes it's really tough to stay as a fan or to not be judgmental about, that shift in whatever it is because there is going to
Right.
be a big shift when you switch to moving to using a different producer. There's going to be a huge shift.
Hmm.
It's just inevitable. Um,
I
yeah,
do think that the McGee influence is far from over, though. I think that we're going to be seeing this last for a little bit of time for sure.
yeah,
And there's just something about the way that he works that feels super nostalgic and warm with like that detuned guitar and being
hmm
acoustic driven, but it also feels like a proper homage to the 80s. And
hmm
it's sexy, but it's cozy. And it's just like a really interesting, like scratch of your brain, that little itch that you
hmm
get that
yeah,
feels right. And I do not think that Bieber is going to be the last artist who plays into this sound. And
definitely
it's
not.
also reflective of just like the state of music right now.
Yeah,
Last year was so big for pop music and pop females, especially, that this year has been weirder. This year has
hmm
been much quieter. The biggest hits of 2025 are songs that came out in 2024.
which is
And
crazy.
you see, Alex Warren's Ordinary dominating the charts, probably being called Song of the Summer. And
Mm,
that's like a very safe song, and you
hmm
still see these safer moments or what's transcending right now as a reaction maybe to the brat of it all and the chapel and the Sabrina, and
hmm
everything comes in waves. Like you saw this a decade ago, and people are going to get tired of the safer music and want something that's more playful and more jubilant, and it's
yeah,
just a matter of
yeah,
time till that comes through. And I think where McGee fits in is a
hmm
really interesting middle section where it feels comfortable and familiar, but there are little experimental flourishes there. You hear it
hmm
with like a little bit of 1975 influence in there. You hear some Dijon, obviously, and
hmm
his album is like totally in the more experimental side of things compared
yeah,
to the
absolutely.
Swag album and other work that
Yeah,
he's done.
yeah. Yeah, and it's hard. Like I don't know how much you listened to McGee's like album he put out. I think he put it out in 2024, right? It wasn't
I
2023.
think I
Anyway,
listened to it in full maybe once or twice, but there are a few
yeah,
songs like specifically from it that I return to.
yeah. And to me, it's hard to know. I think Dijon and McGee have been jamming for a long time, and to me, I think it's hard to know where McGee starts and Dijon ends, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
feel like they've kind of morphed together in the sound that Dijon, even though Dijon worked way more with the Justin Bieber album than McGee did. I think McGee only was on Daisies, right? Was that
Hmm.
his only
I believe so.
nod? I There were so many other songs where I was like, that sounds like a McGee song, and I looked up the credits and he wasn't on there. And so
Hmm.
it is one of those things where that sound and I feel like also I'm not trying to say Dijon isn't his own person because I think that he has influenced McGee in a way as well. But I just feel like they mesh so well in where they want to go and what they want to do and how they want to stretch the genre,
Hmm.
that like they've almost morphed into one person. Like it's like yeah,
I get
now
that.
it's like McGee can't do something that doesn't also sound kind of Dijon-esque, and Dijon can't really do anything that doesn't also sound like McGee. Um, it's
Maybe
really
they got to
intriguing
form
to
some
me.
super group, some
Yeah,
Boy
that would be
Genius
amazing.
esque super group.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that'd be
think
crazy.
the new Dijon album helps show where he stands out from Mickey. It's way
Yeah,
more out
it
there
does.
from what I've
It
heard
is
so far.
way yes, it absolutely is way more out there. And I think he's taking some of those concepts that they worked on together and just like, yeah, is going is going so much further in production and all that stuff. And it's yeah, I absolutely love the Dijon album. I think that it's really cool to have him back for one.
Yeah.
But for
Pitchfork
two,
said best new
for it to
music.
yeah, yeah. And it's to me, I that's it's valid.
On the flip side, I did see that they gave the new Maroon 5 album a 2.4, which I have not seen a score that low, and I
That's
can't even tell you how long.
that's crazy. 2.4. Have you listened
2.4.
to that album?
Nope, and I did not plan on it, but now I feel like I have to
Now you
to
have
hear
to,
it.
yeah, to
Yeah.
see if it's really worth that. That's how it's so funny how it's like that. You want to listen to some of the best albums, and then if an album is like considered to be totally horrible, you're like, I guess
Yeah.
I'm gonna listen to that too.
Right. But it's so polarizing sometimes because sometimes they just get it completely wrong.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
just like so biased at times. There are some reviews
Yeah.
this year that I'm just like, what are you like? Are we listening to the same thing? It's tough, but everyone's
Yeah.
entitled to
Yeah. It
their
is
own
tough.
opinion. That
Yeah.
is what I tell people who give me shit on the internet. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
It's
What
true.
makes you
It's
different
true.
is the way that you handle it and the way you approach it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you would think though, like with a rating that low, that the album's like actually bad. Maybe you would not like knock it up a few notches, but like it would be pretty wild if they're like, yeah, we gave it a 2.4, and then somebody else is like, I give it an 8 out of 10. Like you'd be
There's
like, oh,
no way.
something's missing here.
Yeah, definitely not on a Maroon 5 album. That will happen maybe with other artists, but I don't think that's happening with Maroon 5.
Yeah. One thing that I'd be like curious, I don't know how much you get into, maybe not so much underground, but like just kind of newer artists. I'd be curious if you have any artists that you're like watching kind of come out of the pop scene lately that
Yeah.
you feel like excited about.
So there's one that I always will scream as much as I possibly can about, and
Hmm.
that is Olivia Dean. I
Yes.
randomly stumbled across her song Danger back in
Mm,
December 2022 on, I believe, my Discover Weekly one week, and instantly was hooked. And I just
mm,
knew from the moment I heard that song that this girl someday is going to be the biggest. I just like knew that something was going to happen with her. She was worth riding for.
mm,
And you're kind of seeing it start right now. She has an album dropping in September. I think it's the 26th, called The Art of Loving.
mm.
Her songs Nice to Each Other has like 60,000 users on TikTok. It's doing pretty well chart wise and streaming number wise.
Yeah.
She has a new single that dropped on Friday called Man I Need that is so fun and like feels almost adjacent to Michael Jackson, The Way You Make Me Feel. I
Mm,
think she has such an incredible voice. It's buttery, it's soothing, but it's like youthful and playful, and it just feels timeless too. So she's somebody that I think is it. Like I'm
mm.
ride or die for this girl.
Yeah.
Other than her, I don't necessarily know how new they are or if they're just smaller, but like actually before I go into those, Somber is someone who I'm interested in.
Mm,
His debut
yeah.
album is dropping this week.
Yeah.
I really liked Undressed, Back to Friends, and then the new single 12 to 12 is more
Mm,
in like the weekend kind of style. And I think it sounds awesome. Like that's an immediate song of the summer potential for me. So he's someone that I'm interested to see where his career will continue to grow. I actually think he would do very well with a McGee inspired sound.
mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, him, I'm watching. And then this week, actually, and I've been meaning to make a video about it, I just haven't gotten around to it yet, is the week where like my Discover Weekly was just really, really good.
Mm,
Um, I don't know necessarily, they're not new artists, but they're definitely maybe like less known. Ravina, her song Temptation and Sweet Time were really good, and Lose My Focus came on my Discover Weekly that I loved.
mm.
Hope Tala has a song called Leave It on the Dance Floor that I'm really into right now.
Yeah.
Um, where was it? Frank Ivy, smaller
Oh,
artist, has
yeah.
122,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. His song You Can Feel It has just over 1 million streams. This was like the very first song on my Discover Weekly this week, and
Mm.
it feels like a really interesting blend of 1975 meets Tame Impala.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
something that
Interesting.
I just adore musically.
Mm.
So I'm watching those artists. I also think Addison Rae, dude, like something's working there. And I know
That's
it feels so
yeah.
wrong, but like it sounds so right when you actually listen to the music.
Yeah. I was just talking with
I'm there.
somebody between like comparing like cuz Alex Warren, Addison Rae, like kind of similar-ish backgrounds, right? Coming
Yeah,
into the music
very.
world from influencers and like so like the reactions are so different. but we don't have to get into
Oh
that.
yeah.
But there's a lot of people that are really on this Addison Rae train.
I wasn't for a very, very long time. I thought
Mhm.
that it was just, you know, an influencer just trying something new because they
Yeah.
can, and it'll
Yeah.
get streams because people are fans of hers.
Yeah.
And the early work wasn't necessarily anything to run home about, but this album, as a debut album, very strong and like a
Mhm.
very clear artistic statement. I think she learned a lot from her time working with Charli XCX and being in Charli's
Mhm.
orbit. She
Yeah.
worked exclusively with Luca and Elvira, two, I believe they're Swedish female producers. And the entire album was made by the three of them. And it's just fun and playful, but it touches a little bit of electronic music in a really experimental, fun kind of way for what you would
Mhm.
expect Addison to be doing. I feel like the expectation is she would just have the most generic radio friendly hit possible, and they'd push
Yeah.
that to make her a household name. But I mean, I watched her interview with Popcast, the New York Times podcast that I love so much, and a lot of press she did for the record, just talking about the inspirations behind the music and how much she has closely studied other artists that she admires between like Janet Jackson and Britney, and you hear those
Mhm.
influences on the music. So it feels way less like just a cash grab at this point. It actually
Yeah.
feels like a proper, well thought out artistic plan.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've kind of been coming around to it as well. I didn't love her debut album, but I didn't think that I thought it was good. Like
Hmm.
I haven't revisited it a lot, but I do think we've been spoiled a little bit with these pop girlies that we talked about. Like you think of Olivia Rodrigo's debut album, like
Yeah.
crazy, right? And like
So good.
so your expectations are so high, but it's like you know what. Um, it was a good album. It was a debut
Yeah.
album. It is showing signs that she could have a great album. Like her
Hmm.
sophomore album could be a great album. It might not
Hmm.
be, but I
Yeah,
feel like she could put out a great album.
definitely. Who are
Yeah.
people that you're into right now?
Um, I'm all over the place. I've been like kind of in the like alt rock space a lot. And like kind of like folk. So it's I don't have a whole lot of like pop recommendations if that makes sense, but I've been
Yeah, it
like
doesn't need to be pop.
yeah, I know. I was just gonna. I was just prefacing that because none of these people are gonna be on anybody's radar that's like into pop, probably. Um, but I don't know if you've heard of Samia, probably because like her song "Pool" went like super
Yeah.
viral
Yeah.
on TikTok. I have been listening to her new album that she put out recently, just nonstop. Love it. Love her sound. Love you know her lyricism. Um, a really like weird but fun one for me is a band called Viagra Boys. They just put out a new album, and it's just weird lyrically, so weird, weird sonically, but all in the best ways, I think, for me. I'm just like, this is really cool. Those are two that I've really enjoyed. I also really like the new Wet Leg album, also another kind of alt rock, like kind of more experimental. Um, but hip hop has been having a crazy moment because you have like Tyler the Creator dropping a surprise album around the same time Justin Bieber did. That was huge. And you had like some team ups with like Clips finally coming back with a new album and some really cool stuff. Like I feel like music is in a weird place, like you said. Like it feels like some of the biggest names, the mainstream names, aren't having as much of a moment as they were last year, but like all of the kind of B tier, and I don't want to say that as an insult, but the people below and even the C tier people, like the people below that, are like really rising to make a great year for music.
Yeah.
To
It's
me,
like a
it
natural ebb and flow that you get.
it
I
is,
mean,
yeah,
think of 10 years ago who the biggest names were in, at least in pop
yeah,
music, that I can rail off the top of my head. They're
yeah,
not as prevalent right now. You know,
definitely
it's
not.
just
Yeah,
time,
definitely
things
not.
come and go. But that's why I was saying before how the Taylor impact and reach is
Mm,
so abnormal and unique and really special. Is like,
yeah,
even when, and like, this is a bold prediction, and I don't even know how bold it really is, but I
Mm.
don't think The Life of a Showgirl is going to debut anywhere near, not anywhere near, but it's not going to debut with the same numbers that Tortured Poets did. On one
Mm.
hand, Tortured Poets had 31 songs. This is just 12. So naturally,
Yeah.
it's going to be
Yeah.
less streams.
Mhm.
I think also the album was released during like the real peak of Taylor Mania, of
Yeah.
Eras Tour
Yep.
happening with the re records,
Yep.
with the new
It's
music
true.
coming. It was with Travis and being new and fresh. That was so hot that I
Mm.
don't think this album is going to sell as much, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she's less popular and less impactful. It's just a
Yeah. Yeah.
different release strategy, a different album, a different time. So yeah, I don't think like you're probably going to see headlines when the album comes out and it debuts with less copies, like, oh, it's a little bit of a flop, or like it didn't
Mm.
actually do so well. Like that's
Sure.
not true. It's going to
Yeah.
sell over 1 million copies, no doubt. It's
Yeah.
still an incredibly impactful album.
Mhm.
It's just signs of the times, things
Yeah.
and people change, people evolve, tastes change, genre popularity evolves.
Mhm.
We'll see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah. Totally. Um, Before you go, I'd love to just like rattle off a couple like just fun kind of like little list type things. Um,
Mm.
but one of them that I've been having a lot of fun with guests would be 5 must listen albums.
I actually prepared for this because I knew that you
Nice.
did this and I wanted to make sure I was ready.
I
And I
like it.
have them all on vinyl. So that way I can do a little show
Oh,
and tell.
that's amazing. I love that.
And this is a way of just knowing my music taste
Mhm.
is pretty reflected actually by these albums.
Mhm.
Um, I'll go. How do I want to do this? I'm just going to go from one to one. Okay.
Do it.
My favorite, like the reason why I love pop music so much, the introduction that I had to music, not only pop music, but just like music as a kid at 3 years old, was
Mhm.
Britney Spears. She
Mm.
was just everywhere, and
Yep.
I was obsessed with her and her music
Yep.
and watched every tour. That to me is like the blueprint of a pop star.
Mm.
Madonna, Britney, like these
Yep.
iconic figures in pop.
Yeah.
Britney's best album is Blackout.
Mm.
So
Yep.
this album is one of the 5 I wanted to pick out. You're
Yes.
probably thinking like it's a Britney Spears album. How deep can it actually be? This is the one album that really like reflects who Britney was at the time, that she had complete creative control over. She
Mm.
EP'd it. Gimme More is on this, Piece of Me, Break the Ice. Songs that you probably know from that, but like this album was made in 2007, peak of her crises and issues
Mm.
publicly, in the
Yep.
midst of a complete mental breakdown and just complete mess. She made her best album.
Mm.
And Pitchfork actually revisited this and reviewed it last year at some point and gave it like an 8 something, I think. So
That's crazy. Yeah. That's amazing.
really, really, really impactful album.
Mm.
Definitely worth checking out. Just a really strong statement of what music was like at the time, playing into like Euro dance trends, club
Mm.
sounds,
Mhm.
mid 2000s, but it still feels timeless right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's one. Number 2 is Currents by Tame Impala.
Classic.
I
Yes.
got into Tame actually from another album that I'm going to pull out, through Rihanna's Anti, because
Mm.
this album, long awaited 4-year break between Rihanna albums when she was putting records out every single
Yep.
year like clockwork.
Yep.
And now it's been 9 years since this baby came out.
Mm.
And on this album, Rihanna covers Tame Impala's New Person, Same Old Mistakes. And I heard the song and I'm like, ooh, this is really interesting. And I like the psychedelic touch to it. And it was really
Mhm.
just a song you can get lost in. So that introduced me to Tame and Currents. And this album is as close to a 10 out of 10, I think, as you can get, probably.
Yeah.
Like,
So
this is
good.
just hit after hit after hit. I mean,
Yeah.
Let It Happen, Nangs, uh, The Less I Know, The Better.
Mhm.
There's just so much on this one that you can dive into this over and over and
Yeah.
over again and never get tired
Yeah.
of it.
Absolutely.
That's 3. 4, I was toying back and forth between 2 albums by The Weeknd because he is my favorite male pop star, I would say,
Mm.
right now, and has been pretty consistently. But I was between After Hours and Dawn FM, but I chose Dawn FM because I feel like it's more underrated and doesn't get enough attention. This is part 2 of the 3-part trilogy,
Mhm.
and it basically takes place as purgatory, essentially, and
Mhm.
is a concept album as you're listening to this radio station as you're in purgatory headed towards the light. And
Yeah.
it's narrated by Jim Carrey.
Mhm.
It's super out there and really, really strange of a concept, but the songs on here are so good.
Yeah.
Gasoline, How Do I Make You Love Me, Sacrifice, Take My Breath is a little Michael Jackson-y. My favorite song by The Weeknd is Less Than Zero. It's on this album. It's essentially the closing track outside of an outro.
Yeah.
And I felt like After Hours got so much attention because even though it came out during the middle of the pandemic, Blinding Lights
Yeah.
and Heartless were just so big.
Yeah.
Save Your
They were
Tears.
huge. Yeah.
There were so many singles from that album, whereas Dawn FM kind of came and went quietly,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it doesn't deserve that.
Yeah. Hey, we must be destined to be best friends because apart
Yeah.
from the reputation, being one of our maybe an underrated Taylor Swift album, Dawn FM is by far my favorite The Weeknd album.
Really?
As soon as
Hell
Gasoline comes
yeah.
on, I just am transported. I'm
Oh,
just
you
like,
just want to move.
yeah, it's so good. Like the production on there, I know all of his albums produced magically, but I just feel like Dawn
Yep.
FM is on like god tier. Like it's just
It's so good. The
Yeah, it's so good.
transitions between these songs are stellar.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like How Do I Make You Love Me and To Take My Breath. Sacrifice is so good. That electric guitar is so fun.
Yeah.
Out of Time is just such a timeless one.
Yeah.
The transition from Best Friends into Is There Someone Else?
Oh my
It's
gosh.
so
Yeah.
good.
It's everything about that album. I listen to it back, like front to back, every single time. Like if I'm ever like, I want to listen to The Weeknd, I go to Dawn FM and I'm like, I just start it from the beginning and I listen to the whole thing. Like it's just
You can't help it.
so good. I know, it's crazy. I love it.
But I love an album that flows like that. It's
absolutely.
It just keeps you in more. And like Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billy was one that did that.
Yep.
And I loved that album last year. I'm now thinking, like, I'll show this one. This is number 5. This is Folklore by Taylor, which we've spoken about a ton. This was the album that I always dreamed that Taylor would make, but never thought she would actually be able to do it because as, being Taylor Swift, being the global pop star, when would she ever have the time to go inward and change up her writing style, change up her production, change up her producers, and make this acoustic, folk-inspired album that is less about her and more about just made-up characters. And it's so reflective of the time, pandemic era, like isolation and loneliness and the stories that she's telling. You just truly get lost in it. And this style of production, I felt like really spoke to Taylor's strengths as a songwriter and a vocalist. My favorite Taylor song of all time is on this, August, and Cardigan is on here also. Like, just this is her best album, no doubt in my mind about it. The other album that would be number 6 that I was thinking about as we were talking about Dawn FM, I have it somewhere down there, but I don't feel like reaching for it, is Madion's Adventure. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Most people, I feel like, aren't. He's a dance, like EDM artist. He's worked with Gaga on a few songs throughout, like Born This Way and Art Pop era. He was on Chromatica as well. He's done a lot of like little feature work, but his album Adventure was like saved me in 2015. I was just like in a dark place, unhappy with life, and that album has sick transitions from song to song and is just a feel good EDM album that is less about like bland lyricism and just drink to get drunk and be messed up at a party, but like actually meaningful dance music. I'm way more a production person than a lyrics person across the board, and the production on that album is just one that will continue to keep you going.
No, that's, I'll have to check it out. I'm not familiar at all. That's
just
awesome.
Celebrating 10 years.
Okay. Well, I love that list. And we're gonna jump from that to a last one right before we finish up, and that's your artist Mount Rushmore.
That's so hard. So I get how many choices? 4?
4, yeah.
Okay. Taylor.
Yeah.
Beyonce, because we haven't spoken about her much, but like truly an artist in all shapes and forms of the word, complete visionary. Something that drives me crazy is the way people will compare Taylor and Beyonce and show like how Taylor is the only writer on a song, whereas Beyonce has like 15 writers on a song. Beyonce's one of her best skills is her ability to curate. And there is an art to curation and knowing which songs to structure the way they do, how to have ebb and flow within a song, how to make a track list, what songs to sample and interpolate on each song of your own.
Mm,
Like there's a
mhm.
true art that's there and it shouldn't be lost on anybody. She is
Yes,
a complete
absolutely.
visionary, one of the best to ever do it.
Mhm,
So they're
mhm.
both up there. I want to say Michael Jackson, obviously, like
Okay.
person wise, is a difficult and complex and
Yeah.
controversial figure, but as a musician,
Mm,
there's a reason why he's the king of pop. There's a reason why his hits are so timeless and will last forever.
yeah.
Off the Wall is one of my favorite albums
Mm,
ever. So
mhm.
same with Thriller. So those are up there for sure. Just a complete visionary as well. And I'm trying to decide if I'm selfish or if I'm like level headed. You know what? It's my Mount Rushmore. I'm going to be
Yeah,
selfish.
yeah,
I'm going to put
selfish.
Britney up there. You know why?
Okay.
Because
Yes.
she is the artist that has shaped my music taste and it has given me the ability to love pop music the way that I do. And
Mm,
she's not a songwriter like Taylor. She's not a curator and a visionary in the way that Beyonce is. And she
mhm.
is more like Michael Jackson in the sense of just like really good ear for music and knows how to make a killer hit.
Yeah.
And as a live
Yep.
performer, she was unmatched. And I just
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
the way that you can't take your eyes off her when you see her on stage is something just
Mm,
to never forget. And it's a shame that all of the personal struggles and the conservatorship drama has kind of plagued the last 15 years of her career,
yeah.
but she is someone who will hopefully forever be remembered. And
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
my Mount Rushmore.
I love it. I do think she will be remembered forever. She put like yeah, she was so monumental for early 2000s like pop.
I
So
hope so.
I don't
I
think that.
think that it's deserved. And I think that people don't give her the credit of like the level of artistry that she actually has. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone who's ever spoken about working with her says like these ideas were all hers. She's the
Mhm.
one who comes up with the music video treatments for Baby One More Time and Toxic, and like her most famous iconic moments were all thought of by her.
Yeah.
And I just think she deserves more praise for that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
she's up there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we've been going for about an hour now, so we're gonna wrap up. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Alex. A lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
This
you
has
having
been
me.
yeah, great convo. Any listeners out there that don't follow you, which I'm sure they do, but Vinyl by Mars, Instagram and TikTok, and
Yeah.
you've got a Substack, you've got a
Yeah.
podcast, you've got so many things going, and it's amazing. So go check them out, and you won't regret it because you're gonna get amazing content and you're gonna
Thank
be
you.
on top of the pop world. So
Oh,
yeah,
thanks, man. I appreciate
yeah,
it. It's
of
it's
course.
fun. I love getting to do this stuff. Appreciate you having me. Great conversation, and we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely will. All right. Well, for listeners out there, join us next week. We'll have a new episode and a new guest.